Complex mountains are one of my favorite parts of landscape painting. These are the mountains that Bob Ross made famous with the snowy, rocky textures and the clear highlight and shadow side. There's a kind of magic in the way these mountains come together on your canvas. So you don't have to have them in every painting you do, but I would definitely recommend you try it at least once. Because there's a few extra steps in complex mountains, we're going to break this into two parts. This one will be about getting the color and basic shape of your mountain down. We'll save the texture and highlighting for part 2. So the base color is the color that's going to poke through in the darkest places in the mountain. And the closer that color is to your sky color, the further away your mountains will look. Just add a little bit of black to your sky color if you want your mountains closer or more dramatic. Complex mountains need to have clear points, but you don't want them to look like pyramids. Think more like the shape of a wave, where the side curves and becomes flatter as it gets further away from the point. It's also a good idea to have more than just one point. It'll give you a chance to add some depth later. I would definitely use an existing painting to help you get the feel for the right shape of your mountains, at least until you've done it a few times. And sketching it out with chalk can sometimes be helpful too. Make sure you mark where the bottom of your mountains should be. It's easy for these to get away from you sometimes and become much taller than you intended. So to paint the mountain itself, I would use a medium flat brush and make sure you load it with lots of paint. Just like when painting simple mountains, you want the top edge of your mountain to be nice and crisp, so the paint should be thick so it'll slide easily. Now I didn't add any black to my mountain color here. This is about the same color as my darkest sky, which is the lightest I would go for these kind of mountains. Again, just like simple mountains, we're going to want the bottom to be a little bit lighter than the top so that there's some mist. So pull the paint from the top towards the bottom and do that kind of round, scumbling, scratchy brushstroke to really push that paint into the canvas. Or you can just add a little more white to your mountain color and kind of do a wet blend on the bottom, whichever method you're more comfortable with. Before you can move on to the next step, this base layer has to be absolutely dry. So you've either got to wait for part 2 for another day, or take a hairdryer to it for about 5 minutes, and that should be enough. And with that, I'll see you in part 2.